Today, we're going to break down one of the most compelling, and honestly, one of the most controversial pieces of military footage ever released to the public. You know the one, the GOFAST video. But here's the thing, this isn't just another blurry clip. Nope, it's a data-rich encounter, and it was captured by one of the most advanced targeting systems on Earth. So let's dive in and see what that data really shows us.
What is that thing? I mean, that's the actual voice of a highly trained U.S. Navy FA-18 pilot right in the heat of the moment. You can just hear the raw shock, the disbelief in his voice as he and his weapons officer are trying to figure out what their multi-million-dollar sensors are showing them.
And here's what turned this from just another strange video into a global story. On April 27, 2020, the U.S. Department of Defense didn't debunk this. They confirmed it. They came right out and said, yep, the footage is real, it was captured by our Navy, and the phenomenon observed is still unidentified. That official stamp is what makes this a genuine, bona fide mystery.
So let's set the scene a little bit. We're going to go back to 2015. You've got two FA-18 Super Hornets from the aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt. They're on a pretty standard training mission, flying off the coast of Florida. But what started as just another day at the office was about to become one of the most analyzed UAP encounters in modern history. You know, the timeline here is actually fascinating. The whole thing happens in 2015, but for 2 full years, it's completely under wraps. Radio silence. It's only after someone leaks it in 2017 that any of us even knew it existed. And even then, it took another 3 years before the Pentagon officially released it themselves, saying they wanted to clear up misconceptions that the video floating around wasn't the real deal.
So, you might be wondering, how in the world can we figure out the speed and size of some unknown object from a video shot from a jet that's also moving at hundreds of miles per hour? Well, it all comes down to the incredible technology that was used to film it, plus a few key assumptions that analysts had to make. Let's start with the tech.
The object was tracked by this beast, the Raytheon ATFLIR pod. Now, this is not your phone's camera, not even close. This is a state-of-the-art, military-grade sensor system. It's designed for one job and one job only, to find and lock onto targets with absolute precision from extreme distances, whether it's day or night, in any kind of weather.
And just to give you a sense of how powerful this system really is, it can identify targets from over 40 nautical miles away. That's more than 74 kilometers. We're talking about a sensor that can see things the human eye has no chance of seeing, from distances that are pretty hard to even wrap your head around. And this is the system that caught the GOFAST video.
Okay, now to turn this video into hard data, analysts had to make 2 really crucial assumptions. First, based on what the pilot said, they set the distance from the jet to the object at 20,000 feet. Makes sense. Second, once that ATFLIR pod locks on, it tracks the object so perfectly, so smoothly, that for the purposes of calculation, the camera itself can be treated as a fixed point in space. That's the secret sauce.
All right, now this is where it gets really interesting. This is the point where a blurry video transforms into cold, hard numbers. Using the ATFLIR's own on-screen data and, some pretty clever trigonometry, analysts were able to calculate this thing's real-world characteristics.
And right away, the first surprise. In the video, it really looks like it's just skimming the waves, right? I mean, that's where the name GOFAST came from. But the data tells a totally different story. The jet was flying at 25,000 feet. And the math shows the object was actually flying way up high at an altitude of almost 2,200 meters above the ocean.
And then, there's the speed. Once they got that lock, the object was calculated to be moving at a staggering 887 kilometers per hour. That's about Mach 0.72. I mean, just think about that for a second. That is incredibly fast, especially for an object that has no visible means of propulsion. No wings, no control surfaces, not even a heat plume from an engine.
And this thing wasn't small either. The analysis concluded the object was about 18.7 meters in diameter. Just to put that into perspective for you, that's roughly the length of a big semi-trailer truck. And hey, coincidentally, it's also about the same length as the FA-18 fighter jet that was chasing it.
So what do we got? We've got a large object moving at a really high speed. So the immediate question, the obvious question, is could this just be a piece of conventional military hardware, like a missile? Well, analysts compared the data to the most likely candidate.
Okay, just look at this comparison. The speed, wow, that's a near-perfect match for a Tomahawk cruise missile. But then you look at the size, and it's completely wrong. A Tomahawk is under 6 meters long. This thing was calculated to be more than 3 times that big. And most importantly, its official status is still unidentified.
And this really is the key argument from the analysts. The U.S. Navy knows what its own Tomahawk missiles look like on its own sensors. If that's what this was, the pilots would have just identified it, the encounter would have been filed away, and the Pentagon certainly wouldn't have released it years later, calling it unidentified. It just doesn't add up.
But believe it or not, the object's steady cruising speed isn't even the weirdest part of this whole thing. The analysis actually uncovered an even bigger anomaly: its acceleration.
So check this out. Before the pilots managed to get a really solid lock, the object was just kind of cruising along at a pretty leisurely 152 kilometers per hour. But the instant that AFTLR achieved its lock, the object just took off. It accelerated to 887 kilometers per hour. That is a nearly six-fold increase in speed, and it happened almost instantaneously, with absolutely no visible effort.
So, after all the math, all the calculations, what's the big takeaway here? Well, this whole scientific breakdown transforms the GOFAST video from just a cool mystery into a set of verifiable and, frankly, very, very strange data points.
The really important thing to remember is that this isn't just a story about some weird light in the sky. This is about hard data, pulled from some of the most advanced military sensors we have, and it describes an object with capabilities that we just can't easily explain. Science took a mysterious video and turned it into a set of truly anomalous facts.
The analysis of this one single short video clip just goes to show what's possible when the data is actually made available. It proves that we can apply real scientific methods to these mysteries. And that leaves all of us with the most important question of all. With so much more high-quality sensor data probably just sitting in classified files, when will more of it be released for open, transparent scientific analysis?